guys, it's Wahima, but just call me Wah. Melanated! Welcome to another episode of my recap / review of 90 Day Fiancé Happily Ever After. This is episode 9, The End of the Line. Oh, that's ominous. First and foremost, I want to say thank you so much to all of you who supported me on the 90 Day Live I did last week. I was so nervous, but as somebody who's been adjacent to the business for a long time and has friends who are actually in the business, I want to say that the people who worked on this show, the producers who tried to put this show together, did a bang up job. It's hard to do what they do, and they really tried to work with all of us to make sure we're comfortable and we understood what was going on in the show. I know many of you did not like the show, and there was a large outcry on Twitter about how everybody hated the show and the show's host. But honestly, I hope they give it another chance with a revamp, and the show could be really good and really fun and great for me. And that is something that I absolutely want to do. I do want to be a talking head on shows. I would like to one day host my own pop culture / news show. And so that is something that I absolutely was so honored and grateful to have the opportunity to do, to add that to my resume. I know it's really easy to be negative, and as a former and recovering petty Betty, I just want to thank those of you so much for being happy for me. Even though you didn't like the show, you were happy for me and what that could potentially mean for me. And I really thank you for understanding that. I really thank you for having the nuance to understand the difference. I really appreciate that. I really feel like I do have a group of really smart people who are watching me, and that's the one thing that I love. I love the fact that we are able to have nuances and to feel one way, yet feel another way, or be confused about things, and I love you guys for that. So thank you so much. I tried to represent. I wore my green outfit. I had my head wrap on. I wore my bamboos. If you didn't notice that, I was really trying to represent that look on TLC that you never ever see, and I thank you so much for those of you guys who noticed that and saw what I was trying to do. All right, that being said, I couldn't be as honest and as candid as I am on my channel because TLC was running that live show and it's their show, 90 Day Fiancés. I wasn't gonna get on there and completely poop on any cast member because, listen, we are trying to keep bridges unburnt. You know what I'm saying? We are trying to grow relationships. Okay, so let's jump right into this episode. This was actually a really good episode. Some things were tied up, some things weren't, but that's okay. And there will be a tell-all, so we'll get more of one-on-one conversation, and hopefully Sean Robinson is able to pull out that information from them. I saw the previous girl, and it looks like there's a lot of high tension and a lot of high emotions happening in that tell-all, girl. All right, so first couple that we're going to start with is Chantal and Pedro, because that is the one that is foremost on everyone's mind. Here's what I think. I think River started it. I think River started this entire fight from years ago. I think that he has been antagonizing Pedro for so long that this is what ended up happening. And so I don't quite understand why everyone is confused as to why Pedro did what he did, but he was tired of River running his mouth. I mean, and it started with them being at dinner and Karen and Winter attacking his younger sister. If people can't see that, then I don't know. Then we're at a crossroads where that is where we're gonna have to agree to disagree. We can say whatever we want about Pedro not defending his wife and all this stuff, but at the end of the day, when it's on the home turf of Chantal, and Chantal consistently runs back to her family and tells them negative things about Pedro, they're only gonna be antagonistic towards him, which is exactly what they're doing, and it's causing him stress, and she's unable to see that because regardless of if he's choosing his family, she still has her family here and she's on her home turf. And I think that there's a little bit of a misunderstanding between the two of them when it comes to that. Do I think that Pedro should have gotten up and walked around and hit River? No. However, I could see why he did it. And River hit the light fixture towards him. And so that was what incited that, period, point blank. Now, I don't know what Chantal expected Pedro to do. I think she expected him to not react and go physically attack her brother, which I don't understand why. But she later on explains that she's never been around anything like that. So I don't think she's ever been around like males having to stand up for themselves or something, because I've definitely been around situations like that inside of the family, outside of the family. I don't know why she couldn't foresee that as a potential pathway, but I guess she didn't, so that's fine. And she was just crying, so she was sobbing afterwards. I was just like, girl, she was going through it, child. And Winter was just trying to console her, and then her mother kept saying just literally kept saying it over and over again that I was it was hurting me. It was hurting me just the sound of her speaking that terrible Spanish. Like, Pedro y Nicole está muy malo para mi familia.
Pedro y Nicole es muy mala para mi familia.
Pedro y Nicole es muy mala para mi familia.
I can't. I cannot. So I will not. So then the family takes a collective look at River's bruises and cuts and scratch. And apparently Nicole bit him on the face and scratched him down his neck. But that could have been because he low-key like pulled her to the ground and fell on top of her. So maybe she in that moment didn't know what was going on exactly. Either way it goes, like, Pedro and Nicole took off. Nicole was confused why Pedro even started the fight. She said, why did you attack him? So I think Nicole is kind of like, you know, Pedro did take it there. So Nicole and Chantal are kind of on the same page at that point. Let that be known. And then after that, Nicole ends up going home. Like, Pedro buys her a ticket to go home. I wonder how much that ticket costs. Pedro the next day was texting and calling Chantal, which Chantal was not responding. She was staying at her sister's house. I think I would be mad if my husband attacked my brother. But I can't imagine a scenario in which, like, somebody I would be with, my brother would just be so antagonistic towards, like, unless he was actually physically hitting me. But also, I wouldn't be running back and telling my family. Like, I had a cousin tell me, like, when I was 15, to never ever tell us if somebody did something to us unless we wanted them missing. My cousin was like, look, if you don't want somebody to go missing, don't ever tell us they did something to you. And I was like, noted. And so that's how I live my life. I really felt for Chantal in that moment, though. I did. I know that she didn't want this to happen to her family, but I do think she did, you know, low-key cause it. The next time we see her after she meets with her friend is she finally goes home and talks to Pedro. And Pedro, his attitude is wrong. His attitude is all wrong. He's not trying to resolve this situation. And this is where I'm just like, dang, Pedro, he looks like he's been through it as well. Like, he looks like he hasn't had any sleep. He's looking real rough, you know what I'm saying? And, like, she gets there and she's just like, admit that you were wrong, say what you were wrong. And I don't know why he just won't admit that he was wrong. They're never gonna agree with what's going on, but I think that Pedro could at least agree that he took it too far, that he escalated it. And that's what I think is weird. It's like, come on, dude, you got to finally lay hands on the brother, and now you should just acknowledge that that was wrong and you shouldn't have done it. Yes, Chantal is acting like her family's perfect and they didn't do anything wrong, but at the same time, in order for him to mend the bridges with his wife, he's gonna go on ahead and have to admit and take that L and tell her that he is sorry for attacking her brother. But he won't say that. And I think that's where Chantal's frustration comes in. And I don't think that she's 100% right, but I also don't think that he's 100% right. And I think that if he just were to give in a little bit, then she would give in. But she, at this point, has the upper hand because he did indeed attack her brother. Regardless of the provocation, he laid hands on the brother first. You know, I think that it's just a lot happened that night, and she's feeling betrayed by him with the sister. And, like, they did attack his sister, and so I think Chantal needs to apologize for that. Chantal needs to apologize for her family attacking the sister. I was on her IG stories, Chantal's IG stories, and it turns out that she does know that the sister didn't call her a bitch, that the sister did say point. Like, she does know that. But she says she doesn't care, and I don't know what that means. So I guess, like, to us, that's what sparked the fury. So we would think that if what sparked it didn't actually happen, then maybe everything else could be forgiven. But I think at this point, especially with her clapping when she left, and Nicole's behavior while she was there and being smug with Chantal whenever Pedro took her side, I think Chantal's all the way over it. And at this point, it doesn't even matter that she was initially wrong. And I'm actually uncomfortable with them fighting because I really don't want them to not be together. I'm very uncomfortable while they're fighting. And I'm just like, why do I feel this way? I feel like mom and dad are fighting. But it's because I don't want them to not be together. I think that this is like, they would be fine if they listened to each other more. And I think that's what they just need to do, is listen to each other. Be there for each other. And when they come to a crossroads, have a conversation about it. And not just be like, mind your own business, this is my money. You know, well, mind your own business, I'm telling my family because who else am I going to tell? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, I just think they just need to listen to each other some more. So that's really it for Pedro and Chantal. If I have any more updates, I will go on ahead and give them to you. Okay, so the next couple that we have are Nicole and Azan. This really let me see like what a ninny Nicole is, like what an immature individual that she is. Like it's really bad. They completely messed up this entire situation. She's one of those people who when they're nervous just smiles through it, and it's bothering me. And like, it was hard for me to watch her on the phone with her dad, smiling to him and telling him that he's gonna have to delay his trip because of that, and then on top of that asking him for a favor, and then at the end of it going, that went well. Like like her family's so enabling that I don't even see it being 100% her fault. Like Nicole is the way she is because she's like who she is, but then also on top of that they enable her, and so that's why she doesn't take responsibility for anything that she does. Like that's why her mother is having to have this like extended reach into her life the way she is, because Nicole does not accept responsibility and she's allowed to be careless. Azan says in his confessionals that he low-key thinks that it was meant to be, that their marriage not happening right away was meant to be because, you know, he thinks everything happens for a reason. So that lets me know that he was shaking in his boots about that wedding girl, because he was like, whew, even though my sister's out of 6,000 US, that's fine. It wasn't meant to be. So his sister comes over, and Azan and Nicole are sitting there with the mom, and they basically tell them that, hey, Azan says to his sister that they're gonna have to move back the date for a month because she didn't do the paperwork. And Azan's sister is like, she's sitting right there feeling no way about this. You know how much money I spent? 6 million, which is 6 million, whatever the currency is in Morocco. And then Azan translates it in this life, which is like 6,000 US dollars. $6,000 on my brother's wedding, and his silly intended didn't even process the paperwork right, and now we have to push the wedding back a month. And she's sitting across from me with her head down, like with a smirk on her face. She can't even look at me and say to me, Wafa, I'm really sorry. I'm sorry that I wasted your money and I didn't do my due diligence. I'm really sorry. She can't even look at me. And so then Azan says to her, look at my sister and tell her you're sorry. He's like, no. She's like, no, you do it. You do it for us. You do it for us. Like she's a 15-year-old child. It is so infuriating. It is so infuriating. If I were his sister, I would not forgive her. You can be the nicest, sweetest pie person, but if you're not responsible and you don't take responsibility for your actions, and you can't even look somebody in the face and apologize, that's dumb. Anyways, Rob Ali ends up having a really intense conversation with Azan, and Azan drops some bombshells on Rob Ali in a way that he's never been honest to Nicole. He basically tells her that while he was talking to Nicole initially, when he first told her that he loved her in the first 2 weeks of their getting to know each other, and he asked to marry her, like that he was talking to other women. And that he'd been talking to other women for a while afterwards, and it's only recently that he's gotten real serious with Nicole and stopped talking to the other women. And Rob Ali's like, okay, that's what she wanted, is honesty, and he gave it to her. And like, so Rob Ali knows that this is a sham, that like Azan's only going forward with this because Nicole is the person who came from wherever she came to like deal with him, and like, so he's just gonna get married to her and like whatever. Okay, maybe he has, the silver lining is he'll have the opportunity to go to America and have a better life. And so he's willing to deal with Nicole and her antics in order to get that. And I don't feel sorry for Nicole at all. Because just like Rob Ali said, Nicole has had a lot of warning signs on the way here, and she's chosen to not heed any of them. She's chosen to ignore every single warning sign, every single hiccup. And even when the producers ask her about it, she says, that doesn't necessarily mean we're not meant to be. I'm tired of people like always making comments about it when something goes wrong. Like, we love each other, it'll be fine. And I'm just like, no, it won't be. So Azan ends up telling Nicole about it, and Nicole's crying, and she says it doesn't feel good, but I'm sure she'll still marry him in a month's time, so like, whatever. Okay, so let's move on to Annie and David. So Annie and David is just like, again, this is what I think about this. Annie tells David that she's not moving out of that firehouse to go live with him, that she's actually just gonna go home. He starts to cry, and she then says, never mind, I'll stay with you. And that she feels bad for David because she knows he does try, but like, because you do try, that's honorable, but that doesn't mean I have to stay here and suffer while you're trying. And so this is a really emotional episode for him, and I did actually feel bad for him. They moved out of the firehouse, they went to the tiny space, and there's just shots of David cleaning out the self-storage stalls, and you know, Annie upstairs putting together the dresser. And she basically is saying that she loves David and she did have all these plans with him, but like she doesn't deserve this and this is not what was promised to her. And so I agree with her. I think she should go home. I think she should go to Thailand until he figures it out. Or they should get divorced and she should just go home and like live her life there where she's happy. Because I can't imagine how lonely she feels. I felt lonely for 2 years when I moved to New York City. And I had friends there. So like... I can only imagine moving to a foreign country and then your husband not having anything, and then from your point of view, him not even going out and getting some kind of job. Forced to have to move out and live in like a place with no stove before he finally was like, okay, I'll go get some kind of job. That's it for them. So the next couple that we move on to is Molly and Louise. So again, Louise is not in this episode. So Molly goes and meets with Livy at the roller skate rink with Kinsley, and they basically have a heart-to-heart, and Livy like just drops some knowledge like she always does. Like, I'm gonna need you to reevaluate your situation, you know, understand what you did wrong, and like never do it again. I'd be willing to move back in with you if you change certain behaviors. And I'm just like, okay, Rumi. Also, like, Matthew's parents are just completely okay with Olivia living there. That's crazy. I think that, I just don't know where Molly's mind was, but you know, girl, she was in love. So then Molly goes to the lawyer because Louise did sign the divorce papers, so that's really good, girl. And those boots she was wearing, child, when she got out of that car, and they made sure to highlight them, I mean, stunning. There was a lot happening on them, but I was like, these boots are made for walking, girl. You better walk into that divorce lawyer's office and get you a divorce. Now she just has to worry about the immigration side of it because she's still going to be responsible for him for 10 years if something happens to him. So hopefully he goes home. He probably will not, though. He probably will not. We'll have to see what happens. So next couple we're going to talk about is Jorge and Pisa. George and Pisa. I got to remember to call him George because people are very upset. So Jorge and Pisa, they talk to the baby mama, and the baby mama sounds convincing to me because it looks like George did give her some stuff at some point in time. He did provide her with some clothing. He doesn't even know the baby's name. He's never seen her, and it looks like the mom was just like, look, I let you live your life. I know we were both teenagers. I moved on, and I took care of her by myself. But, you know, it does look like she did come out of the woodworks now that he's on the show, and she thinks that he's making money. See, this is my question. So Anfisa's like, I want to know if it's your baby because my parents weren't around in my life, and I know how it feels to be abandoned. So it sucks that you've abandoned your baby. But then when the girl made some comment and called Anfisa ugly about George spending money on her instead of spending money on his own daughter, and that's what Anfisa chose to jump on as like the thing that George needs to stick up for her for. And I'm just like, but if you're trying to like make peace with your baby moms, like what did Anfisa want him to say to her? I don't understand what he would want him. I don't understand, because me knowing George, and like he won't even defend her to his family. So why would he defend her to someone else, especially when this person could cause him a lot of grief if it turns out to be his kid? So he wants to handle that whole situation privately. And that still makes me sad. Because, like, as much as I'm like, okay, pay the money, but, like, I don't know. It's even worse if you're paying for a child and you're not seeing them. Like, that's crap. But, okay, I can't judge those situations because I've never been in them and I don't understand it. But it feels weird if you're going to acknowledge that this is your child and you're just going to give them a monthly stipend, but you're like, I don't want that child in my life. I would feel really abandoned as a kid if that were me. Hopefully it's not his kid and that kid doesn't have to go through this drama. That's the only thing I can think about that. But it looks like this is the episode where they tell us that, you know, as we all know, that George got pulled over in Arizona for having like 10 pounds of weed on him, but he is like a weed distributor, but he was just in the wrong state, right? So he had all that weed on him, and then they went to the court, and Anfisa's standing by his side, which I don't see why she wouldn't stand by his side. Like, I don't know, I live in a state where it's very weed friendly, so like I'm just like, okay, he caught a case and he'll figure it out. Like, they'll be fine. And there's something about me a little bit that kind of likes George because he's like in the marijuana business. I'm like, oh, he's not as lame as the TV makes him out to be. Like, I just think that he's definitely lame and a liar, but like, he's not as lame, you know? So anyways, yeah, that's what's happening with that. It looks like they're gonna privately figure that situation out, and they're still together. They have that YouTube channel, girl. They have that YouTube channel, and they did like a couples thing, and you know, it's doing well. So everyone makes their money. The next couple that we are going to talk about is Russ and Pau, and she's upset with him and he's upset with her, and it looks like things aren't going too well for them. You know what I noticed? When they do confessionals in this show, they do it two different ways. They either have them solo or they have them together with their partner. And I think that I'm starting to realize that that's very indicative of what the relationship is going to be throughout the season based on that coupling. So Molly was always by herself in her confessionals, and there was never any confessionals with Louise like there was before. So that lets us know that Louise was not a part of this season, only for those very first couple episodes, and then that's it. He refused to do any other kind of filming. And in this one, we saw that Chantal and Pedro were always separate. They never did the couple's confessional, right? They were always separate. So that kind of matches up with how this whole entire season has ended, with them being at odds with each other and like not talking. And then the same thing with David and Annie, where we did see them together, but we saw her by herself, more fired up than we did when she was with him. When she was with him, she was just kind of sitting next to him. And I feel like Annie hasn't left because she feels bad, but I don't think she really wants to be there. I think she's only here because she feels bad that this, grown man is crying. And maybe she also doesn't have the money to get home. So she's like, what else am I going to do until I get that money? So I might as well wait. The same thing with Pao and Russ. If you notice, Russ doesn't have any confessionals by himself, nor with her. Everything is Pao by herself doing the confessionals. So I find that very, very interesting. Just something to think about when it comes to looking at the show and the dynamic of them, and like whether or not they're still together, or if maybe TLC's making that up, but that's very subtle, and so I didn't think it was on purpose. Okay, you guys, so that's it for this episode. Please let me know what you think down below. Are your heartstrings being pulled for Chantal and Pedro the way it is for me? What do you think of Annie and Batman? What do you think of Pao and Russ? But like, nobody really thinks anything of them because they're boring, right? What did you think of Molly and Louise? I mean, like, let's have a talk about this in the comment section. Oh, and if you like what I do here on this channel and you would like to consider becoming a Patreon patron, please click the link down below. I'm happy to say that due to all of my patrons, thank you so much, I'm able to get a ring light, so I'm gonna get better lighting. It's coming this week, so maybe my next couple videos will be shot with my really cool lighting. So I hope that makes my videos look better. I'm always trying to figure out ways to improve the quality of my work because I want it to look good, So thank you so much for all of my Patreon patrons. You have been very, very helpful. You can give as little or as much as you want. $1 a month totally helps, and I truly, truly appreciate you. Remember to be you, be true, and find your place. Bye!